spirit is rising, she's rising, she's rising. The spirit is rising, it's rising, it's rising. The spirit is rising, they're rising, they're rising.
Hi, Risa.
Hi, Amy. Hi,
How you doing?
Hi,
Hi, Coven.
listeners. I'm all right. I mean, we had a few days of clear air, but the smoke air is back. The heaviness is back. And I mean, I think we all are. I'm definitely like, my emotions are directly related to the cloud cover.
Valid.
All my ventricles, all of my emotional watery being is affected. So now it's thick and gray, and I'm sliding down from a happier place I was. But also last night we went to a very beautiful kind of collective ritual at the funeral home where my husband's mother had her funeral in November. They invited all the families who had had a funeral there in the last year to come, and they did this. Yeah, they read poems. There was a beautiful musician. He sang a beautiful cover of Fleetwood Mac's Landslide. It was really touching. They read poems in French and English, and then they did this ritual. They gave us all, they let us choose a stone and a flower petal. And then they had this big bowl of water in the front, and they said, at the end of the readings and everything, come up and like feel something that's still heavy. I'm going right the fuck in. Sorry, I was just thinking about this stuff, but let's go.
Oh, yeah.
Come along, listeners. It's the RX. Yeah, they invited us to drop a stone into the water and release something that was still heavy in our grieving process. And then to hold and feel the lightness of the petal, and to release into the same water something that's still sort of joyful and uplifting about the grieving process, and to feel the balance of those two things. And that was so beautiful to have this non-religious, beautiful, full room of people there. Just everybody had accepted the invite, come be with others who were mourning. And we all had name tags that said the name of the person we lost. And then they described the ritual, and then the guitarist started to play a song, but they had said, we'll do this at the end. So we're all sitting there holding our stones and petals. And May, of course, is like, I'm going to go do it now. Mark and I are like, yeah, let's do it now. It's fine, And in my head, I'm like, this is when it should be. Like, they just explained, they read the poetry. He's playing a song. There's like a poem and a song after this. What are we going to do at the end, outside of the container of this beautiful ritual space? Like, so in my head, I'm like, yeah, she's right. Let's do it. But our family who we're there with are like, it's not time. Don't go. Do it. It's not time to do it. But we're like, she's a kid. It's fine. She's like definitely the only child there. We may have misunderstood the invite and thought it was just like a reception. But anyway, we brought our 4-year-old. And May was fully like respectful and into it and, chatty and stuff like a kid, but she was very interested and glad to be there. And she went up and she dropped her petal and she dropped her feather and came back, and everybody at the front was smiling. And then there was a beat after she sat down, and the guitarist is still playing. And then they went up to the mic and they were like, we invite you all to come up now. And so everyone came up. May went up like 6 more times with everybody in our family's petals and stones. And they proceeded and finished with the poems and stuff. And then this, I'm only telling you because it's funny, but I'll get into why I'm thinking about this after. But I ran into one of the volunteer coordinators from where Kathy had spent her time in palliative at the Teresa Delaire Center, which is really beautiful. And she was like, she knows that I'm a witch. And she was like, was that you that fixed our ritual? And I was like, no, that was my kid. She's like, thanks.
Did they use the word ritual?
Yes.
Did they say ritual?
Yes.
Oh, wow. I've never heard of this, and this is something that I want to be like normal.
Yeah.
Like a beautiful, again, a gathering of people who are grieving like different people, but share that like sense of like, in the past year, I lost someone really important to me, and coming. I've never heard of this outside like witch circles, but I mean, like in the like mainstream, I'm using scare quotes here, but like mainstream death industry, this like revisiting.
Yeah.
Like, I hope that becomes like a thing that all funeral parlors and adjacent,
It's
businesses
so
take on.
beautiful. And for the funeral parlor to have organized it, so
Yeah.
thoughtful. Um, and it really, I mean, it fit with a lot of what I was working through and thinking about this week. This week was also Mark's parents' wedding anniversary. And so there's a lot of like emotion in him, a lot of like, I don't know, when he's right on the edge of an emotion, like it flares up into quick panic or like quick anger. He's like more quickly like just flipped over the edge. He's a really gentle person, and so those things don't come out in scary ways, but he's also like an emotionally intense person, and it was really noticeable this week. And I was thinking about, my mom once told me, my mom worked, well, she still does, I guess, but she used to be very front lines. She's a psychologist and social worker, and she used to work with the families and friends of psychotic and schizophrenic clients. And she's always been very front lines work in my memory. And she told me at one point that things work in seasons and cycles, and that whenever she saw someone going through a crisis, in conversation, it would become clear that this was a time of year that resonated with something traumatic that had happened. So it's like spring times around this time start to bubble up in me this particular feeling. And I was thinking, I have sort of a terrible memory of dates and times. Like my brain just does not hold that at all. But my prescription for myself, I've been thinking a lot about map making, but in time, like what does that spiral look like? And if I can do some archaeology in my life through old email inboxes and things, like what are the events that I know for me were either traumatic or revelatory, and can I grid them out in the seasons, in the dates, so that I can feel what my body is feeling, like I can understand it. And so that's part of a prescription for me. And I was also, to bring it to a song, I was thinking about when the first date I went on with Mark, he invited me over and invited me to bring records over, and he would make me dinner. And a friend asked us recently, because we're getting married again for the 57th time or whatever this summer, about our first date, and they were like, what were your records? And so we were talking about the records, and the only one they weren't familiar with was Judy Sill. I know, I love seeing Amy's face drop with joy. Judy Sill, Heart
I
Food.
love Judy Sill.
Oh my God, this album was a gift. I mean, I went into an indie record store, spoke with a brilliant and condescending worker there. It was a super packed indie record store. And I was with a friend who was talking about the kind of music that I play. I wouldn't have brought that up in that context. I was very spooked. But he was like, you need this. And, Heart Food is remastered and is just this incredible orchestral, I don't know, how do you even describe it? It's so beautiful. I read a biography of hers that said she didn't become popular in the 70s when, David Geffen and all these people thought she would be the next major star, because she was openly bi. She put no performance into being sexualized. She had been assaulted as a child. She had been through violence, and she was just like, and they described her, I can't remember who to attribute this quote to, but they described her as performing like a teacher. She doesn't sing to you like she's being sexy. She sings like she's teaching you shit.
100%.
Right?
Yeah. The first song I thought of when you mentioned her name is a song called Crayon Angels, which is like so teacherly. It's like, Crayon Angel songs are always slightly out of tune. It's so beautiful.
Beautiful. It's so beautiful. Yeah. For me, it's Rugged Road. Last night, I could not sleep. I don't know. I don't know if it was Kathy, because Mark's dad told me he couldn't sleep last night either. We were just up all night, head spinning. And I had an earworm of like a terrible song in my head on just like a one line loop, like a pop song from a TV show I'd watched before bed. And at one point I was like, I'm going to lose my mind. Like this earworm is tunneling through my soul and I might just fall into pieces here. And then the rugged road like dropped into my brain. Like, there's a rugged road on the prairie, hitchhike away across the great frontier. And it's just like, then just that was in my mind and everything settled. And then I couldn't sleep, but everything was okay. I wasn't losing my mind. I was like watching that seeker on the prairie. And the lyric that's always with me is, so in the chorus, it's roll on, night birds are flying. Come on, the light is gone, hope slowly dying. Tell me how you come riding through, blindly faithful, but following none, on the long and lonely road to kingdom come. Just like, how do you do it? How do you keep going? What lights in you, you know? I love the way she used religious imagery, and like not a religious person, but you know, interested in the Theosophists, and she talks about the mystical Jesus, and like definitely a witch. Like I might do her in a future episode. Just someone who really, I think, sings for me about these spirals and carrying these messages in our body. How do we find our way forward when everything is dark, you know?
Yeah, but there's such a lightness in her heaviness, so it really is like it really is something that her music can evoke like any emotion, you know, that you're feeling. I do want to say that we have to add Landslide because they played it at this service, and I don't know if you remember this. Like, I'm pretty sure it was you. It might have been a different girlfriend. This was years and years and years ago. We went to get our nails done, and they're, you know, in this salon, they were like playing music, of course, not unusual. But then Landslide came on, and both of us are like, why are you trying to get people to cry in your salon? Like, this song needs to be reserved for very specific occasions.
You can't just pull that out at the salon.
No, you can't play Landslide when people are trying to have a good time and get their nails done. It really is just like, if you need help crying, Landslide is the prescription. Sure.
So window into teenage Risa. The line from that song, I've been afraid of changing because I built my life around you, was my graduation quote. And I inaccurately attributed it to the Smashing Pumpkins because that's how I was familiar with the song.
That's just like such a wonderful like 90s, you know, Y2K sort of, you know, when you know better, you do better.
97, guys. I'm old. I didn't know.
But I mean, I'm like furious at you for that misattribution.
Fair.
20 years later, I'm like,
17 is too old to have made that fucking mistake.
The edge of 17 is too young and too old to not give Fleetwood Mac their due.
I was a dumbass, but it's a great quote.
It is a great quote. It is a great quote. I had such a magical week, like not in a way that might like impress people who aren't witches, if that makes any sense. Like I just had such a glorious awakening of nature. Like I don't know if you listeners remember the woodchuck meditation that I did last year, and I saw that woodchuck twice. I hadn't seen him or her, I guess, them, since I wrote that episode last year. And then they were just going around all with a big round butt, you know, scooching around in the yard. And like there were butterflies following me around, like the flowers are blooming. It really was like this, like it felt so magical to be in the world for me this week, despite everything that I could choose to be upset about. It was just like comforting. And our last new moon meeting, they always go places that we don't mean for them to go. And we ended up talking about depression, like bad depression, and how to get through those times. And so I brought some music for that. I brought some music that's like, I will live a magical life. I will create a magical world. And so I brought T-Rex. Mark Bolan is like, to me, like the sprightly imp of glam rock. And there's so many songs. It was very difficult for me to narrow it down to 3 because like all of T-Rex's music is like, what? Like, you did what? So I want to start with Cosmic Dancer. Cosmic Dancer is a song about, like, Mark Bolan sings, I danced myself out of the womb. And then by the end of the song, I danced myself into the tomb. So he like goes through his whole life, and the only repeating thing is like, I was dancing when I blank. I was dancing when I blank. I was dancing when I blank. And this is something that I'm trying to absorb, like we have a choice when the song comes on, whether we want to, rage out and break something, or, we can dance through this life. Whatever music is playing, we witches can find a way to dance to it. So that song is called Cosmic Dancer. And again, like even just the title is so evocative for me of like, we, once again, as I always am sort of burdened by and also elated by, is like, we are on a rock hurtling through space. Period. Like how can we not take things seriously / take things seriously, So I like to think of like myself, but also the earth as just like an object that is dancing through the galaxy. And that has been very useful for me. The next one, again, if you're like going through it, put on this song. It's called She Was Born to Be My Unicorn. And the whole song is just this like fantasy. I'll read you some of the lyrics. She was born to be my unicorn, robed head of ferns, cat child, tutored by the learned. And I think about this in terms of flowers too. There's so much stress and pressure to be this and be that and do this and do that. What if you were born to be a unicorn? Like a mystical creature that only the most valiant or only the most pure of heart can see. And again, we talk about like pearls before swine. And to me, that's the same kind of idea, do you remember the cartoon film that's like for children, but it wrecked all of us in the 80s, The Last Unicorn?
Of course.
Yeah, don't watch it if you don't want to get absolutely emotionally wrecked. But
it's really not for children. I like, in a way, I started it with May recently, and it's so beautiful, but it's so scary and so sad.
Oh,
it's so
but
good.
Part of the idea is like, you can't see the unicorn unless you like have some of this magic yourself. And so I think about myself like that when I get down on myself, like I am a unicorn, and just like the muggles or whatever can't see it. They can't see me. But does that make me any less of a magical fucking being? It sure doesn't. It sure doesn't. So again, maybe you're a flower and you're just meant to like grow upward toward the sky and your roots downward into the soil, and just like help bees pollinate other flowers by just like standing in your beauty. Like, flowers are so important. We literally wouldn't have life on this earth, but they're not out there, hustling. So again, if you're down this week, like, consider yourself a unicorn. Those who don't appreciate you, really, like, they literally just can't see you for what you are, for the creature that you are.
Oh, and have to add the bees bit that I've been thinking about so much, that the European honeybee is an invasive species that was brought here. The European honeybee has queens and strict hierarchy and worker bees. There's like 5,000 species of indigenous bees that have unique relationships with plants. Most of them do not have a queen. They are, in fact, what we would describe as anarchist. They are like self-organized and they follow their own joy and their own individual kinship relationships, just like you.
And finally, the third part, and honestly, I could go on and on and on. Like, they have a song called Ride a White Swan. Anyway, I could just sit here and list T-Rex songs, but this is the last one. And again, this is sort of like, if the first two are the songs of innocence, this is the song of experience. It's called Children of the Revolution. And the sort of chorus line is, you won't fool the children of the revolution. You won't fool the children of the revolution. You won't fool the children of the revolution. And I think of us as being children of the revolution. And you can tell us whatever you want about how society is supposed to work, but you won't fool us. You won't fool us into buying things we don't need. You won't fool us into hating ourselves. You won't fool the children of the revolution, which we are. Everyone listening right now is a child of the revolution, and we're all working together, and you won't fool us. You won't.
Yeah, we're children and parents of that revolution. Yeah, I want to feel the wave. I'm excited to listen to your songs, as always. It's always fun. I leave the prescription and go listen to everything.
Of course, always. And again, Mark Bolan, he, even just to look at him, he has like what I think I described as like a sprightly impishness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I believe him to be a magical creature who came to this earth to deliver a very important message and then split when he was 29. He's not a member of the 27 club because he needed those extra 2 years.
Yes, Judy's still too, I think, like 29 or 31. And I mean, there was so much involved in that and what happened. I mean, terrible accident and opioid addiction and abusive partners and stuff. But I do feel like she had a dream. She knew she was going to write those songs. She knew how important they would be. I'm going to link in the RX to the video. There's not a lot of videos of her performing live, but there is a video for the Kiss. And she does just look like this tiny, perfect teacher, like she's got her glasses on and she explains at the beginning, like, this song is about the mystical symbolism of it. She goes into it and then she sings, and it's I just love her. And I want to add, the chorus in The Rugged Road is the question, right? Like, how do you go on? How do you find it? And then the last verse is, when the sun goes down at the right time, she comes winding through the purple haze. Just a feather's touch in the nighttime, but it'll color all my weary days.
I can't top that.
I know, I could keep talking, but that's not right. It's Blessed Fucking Be.
Blessed Fucking Be. The prescription this week is to grieve, to consider the seasons of your elation and your grief, to be in an emotional landslide if that's where you need to be. But also remember, you're a unicorn and a child of the revolution, and there is so much magic in the world that is just waiting for you to dance inside of it.
That touch of purple, that touch like a feather, carry it through all your weary days.
And blessed fucking be.
The world's dedicated to me, and my life is all to me. I love myself and all me. I love myself and all of me, all of me. I love myself and all of me. Love myself and all of me. I love myself and all of me.
If you want to support the Missing Witches Project, find out how at missingwitches.com.